making it out here on this fine Saturday morning. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for finding your seats, even in the midst of a little bit of chaos. To OLs specifically, we did just want to make a quick announcement that some groups got a little bit shuffled, so if the papers that were in your Mind Your Mother bags are a little bit off, that's okay. Who is sitting with you currently is who is going to be with you for the day, all right? Makes sense? Can I get like a thumbs up from all the OLs? Awesome. All right, looks good.
Okay.
Awesome, cool.
Beautiful.
All right, we're gonna launch into things then.
Okay, so we are so genuinely glad that you're here today. I just want to recognize that you've made it. You've made it out of your beds this morning despite the busyness of orientation. You made it to Calvin, you made it to Grand Rapids, and you've made it to college, finally. None of those things were easy feats, and we truly celebrate you for that. So we just want to take a moment to congratulate y'all. And so, welcome to Grand Rapids on behalf of all the community partners we will be working with today. We hope that even if you're already familiar with this place, it'll feel new for you today. Before we officially start, please make sure you have these 3 items for the day, as you will need them throughout the day. So that's your water bottle, your closed-toed shoes, and your Streetfest t-shirt. If you don't have a water bottle, that's okay, we'll get one to you. But good to have, good to have.
Yeah, absolutely. And then also a quick note before we begin, bathrooms are out this door over here. There's an elevator that is accessible. There's also a stairwell around to the right. There will be a water fountain down there as well. If you feel the need to duck out for either getting water or using the restroom, please do feel free. We want to make sure everyone is comfortable and taken care of. Awesome. Now, we'd like to introduce ourselves. My name is Will. I am going to be a senior, I guess, in a couple of days here at Calvin University, and I am a social work major.
And I'm Evelyn. I will be a junior as of Monday, and I'm majoring in history and environmental health and conservation.
And so we work at the Service Learning Center, who is helping put on this event, and this is our 30th annual Streetfest, which is a pretty big milestone for us, and we're very excited to be sharing it with each and every one of y'all. We've been working very hard all throughout this summer and are very excited to see this room filled with service learners. We work alongside a wonderful team of coordinators and transportation assistants. This event would not be happening without them. Now, to briefly introduce our staff from left to right on the slides behind us, we have Jack, Horacio, Elizabeth, Celestina, Evelyn, Sarah, Andrew, Kate, and Will. We'd also like to mention, not pictured, is Rebecca, who was a huge help to us as kind of an office assistant and taking care of us throughout the summer and any of our needs. Our office coordinates service learning on campus. We think that service learning is kind of this thing where it's service hand in hand with learning, and that there will be a continual exchange of those 2 things all throughout this event as well. You will not only serve your community partners, but you will learn from them, and they will learn from you, and yeah, etc.
Yeah, so take a moment, look at your shirts or the tan shirts around us. There's some artwork on them. One of the major parts of putting on Streetfest is the creation of artwork that represents our theme on our shirts and materials and website. The art this year was created by Asma Speaks, who is a local artist that we admire for his work on graffiti walls, as well as his bold colors and typography throughout his art. You can find his art at asma.speaks on Instagram or on the walls in many of the buildings around Grand Rapids.
So this art was created as a collaboration between him as an artist and us kind of with the vision of Streetfest, right? And so there are a number of different elements to this art that we created. Kind of in the foreground here, we have these different houses which represent the different neighborhoods of Grand Rapids with many different patterns on them as well. The city in the background behind the vases here represents is kind of an outline of a downtown area, highlighting a stark contrast between how Grand Rapids has a pretty stark division between industry and housing, as well as different neighborhoods. The vases highlight the 3 elements of our Streetfest theme, with the typography integrated with the design, and then the flowers coming out of them are modeled after native plants to Michigan. All right, so we hope that you are able to appreciate this artwork as much as we do. We are glad to finally be able to share it with you and make it kind of public to this event. Now I'd like to invite one of our staff members that we mentioned earlier, Elizabeth, to come up here to read a poem which has been influential to the Service Learning Center for years, and to Evelyn and I specifically for the summer.
It helps, now and then, to step back and take a long view. The kingdom is not only beyond our efforts, it is even beyond our vision. We accomplish in our lifetime only a tiny fraction of the magnificent enterprise that is God's work. Nothing we do is complete, which is a way of saying that the kingdom always lies beyond us. No statement says all that could be said. No prayer fully expresses our faith. No confession brings perfection. No pastoral visit brings wholeness. No program accomplishes the church's mission. No set of goals and objectives includes everything. This is what we are about. We plant the seeds that one day will grow. We water seeds already planted, knowing that they hold future promise. We lay foundations that need further development. We provide yeast that produces far beyond our capabilities. We cannot do everything, and there is a sense of liberation in realizing that. This enables us to do something, and to do it very well. It may be incomplete, but it is a beginning, a step along the way, an opportunity for the Lord's grace to enter and do the rest. We may never see the end results, but that is the difference between the master builder and the worker. We are workers, not master builders, ministers, not messiahs. We are prophets of a future not our own.
Okay, thank you so much for sitting with us in that. Now, we'd like to tell you a little bit more about our theme and what it means to us. So, the theme for this year's Streetfest is Planted with Purpose, Tending Consistently, Gather in Love. When Will and I were creating this theme, we valued the power of metaphor and began seeing how Grand Rapids and the community here is kind of like a plant. The theme at surface level encapsulates the story of the gardener and how they interact with the plant, but it goes much deeper than that. We intentionally chose the word planted in the past tense because we wanted to reflect on how these organizations you'll be visiting arose out of a specific context in order to strengthen the community. And so the work of Streetfest is not to plant seeds, but to recognize how the seeds have been planted long before you or I arrived at Calvin's campus, even if it seems random or out of order to fresh eyes. As Will and I have been reflecting on this, the phrase, "We water seeds already planted, knowing they hold future promise," from the poem you just heard, comes frequently to mind. The organizations held onto a hope and a promise as they planted these seeds in their community. As you're going out today, listen for that story. I'd like to tell you a way in which Planted with Purpose has impacted me in my personal life. Growing up, I often lived in the midst of transition and contradiction, with one foot in one sphere and with one foot simultaneously placed in the other sphere, which led me to not often feel rooted or planted in any particular place or category. But what I learned was that even though all the parts of my life seemed out of order, chaotic, or even contradictory, each facet rose out of a specific history and purpose, and I was somehow living at the intersection of it all. When I came to Grand Rapids to start my college education, the feeling of uprootedness only increased. Even though I thought I knew what to expect from college, the tours I had been on throughout high school. As a first-generation college student, I found that I was suddenly thrown into a world that seemed completely different to me. It seemed that everyone knew about the purpose of college and how to excel. It was as if they had been prepared for it years ago, and I was just now learning how to function in that space. And so I began to search for how people and places around me were also planted with purpose, even if I couldn't immediately see it. I knew it had to be there because I had seen it in my own life. I broadened my scope to know more about Grand Rapids and those who lived here. I began to see how disinvestment and neglect led to marginalization and division. Through my work at the Service Learning Center, I have learned how communities have responded and begun to heal from that, which helped me in learning to love this place and in all that it is. This not only sparked a new joy for invested long-term service learning, but also helped me realize how I could care for a place around me, even though it felt new and uncomfortable. I learned that I could love a city by knowing its stories and its history. I could now root myself because I saw how the communities had been planted. As participants of Streetfest, you also have the opportunity to learn how these organizations have been planted intentionally and the purpose they have in mind. It is a chance to not learn just what an organization does, but who it is, and hopefully loving it as well. The beauty of this is you as Streetfest participants get to join the story, which began long ago and now insist in the work these organizations are doing. In the plant metaphor Will and I made, the work of Streetfest is the work of tending to the plant. Today, you will work, and you will work hard, perhaps even experience the discomfort of the new and unfamiliar, but there is joy and there is beauty in that. Tending has the undertones of care and of attention, which is vital for the work of Streetfest. Without the lens of care and attention, without the posture of tending, then the work may begin to feel burdensome. Furthermore, we chose the word consistently to convey the importance of repeatedly coming back to work alongside organizations in Grand Rapids. Just like a garden must be continually watered in order to love the things growing there, so must we also keep coming back. Streetfest is not meant to be a one and done, but it is intended to be a beginning, which sparks the desire to consistently tend to a community and the organizations there.
All right, and the final part of our theme is gather in love. Well, we spent a lot of time with each of these phrases. This is probably the one I've put the most time and effort into. That most likely came partially from me prepping for this speech here in front of you today. I think it is also both the most complex and the most simple part of our theme. The complexity shows when we try to apply the words to the plant analogy that Evelyn has been filling out through her portion of the speech, and planted with purpose and tending consistently. The word gather fits, as it is often used to describe the act of picking fruit from its tree or gathering a harvest from a garden. That isn't entirely what we are getting at, so we would instead like to propose a different meaning of gather. Evelyn and I have gotten excited over the prospect of gathering together in community, simply joining together in whatever work we are pursuing, and doing so with the deepest love we can muster. Using this past summer as a case study, there has been so much gathering in the pulling off of Streetfest. Our staff has gathered together with community partners to make sure y'all are equipped for the physical and mental work that you will be doing throughout the day. We have gathered together with folks all over campus to make sure you have chairs to sit in, food to eat, and phenomenal leaders to follow. We have gathered together through members of our team being home from sickness. We have gathered together across 6-hour time differences. We have gathered together in coffee shops, in parks, in backyards, in hair salons, in fantasy worlds, and in group chats. Now here we are, standing in front of you, gathering together with you. We are so excited to be gathering here together after tending to the seeds of Streetfest throughout the summer, seeds that were planted long before us. Now we can gather for many things, right? From throwing a birthday party for a shared friend to filling a friend's dorm room with lobby furniture. I would ask that you please don't gather to do that last one. That is why we qualified the word gather with the word love and made the words hopelessly complex. Love isn't simply one thing or something that one person feels towards another. It is a chosen posture. It is a choice to view people, places, things, and ideas with the utmost care and respect. That is one thing that we ask of you today. We encourage you to gather with people that you likely don't know, in a place that you likely aren't familiar with, and that you do so with respect for yourself and those around you. Planting takes purpose, tending takes consistency, and gathering together through it all takes profound love. One of the most beautiful examples of care and love for physical earth has to be found in the book Braiding Sweetgrass. As Kate comes up to read a portion from the book, we encourage you to not only soak in the words, but to also see how the words can be applied to Grand Rapids and the communities here.
This passage is a selection from Braiding Sweetgrass by Robin Wall Kimmerer, a scientist, decorated professor, and a member of the Citizen Potawatomi Nation. In this book, she shares her story, her value of traditional indigenous knowledge of plants, her struggles and successes in college and academia, and her eventual return to the indigenous knowledge that we can all learn from. The girl in the picture holds a slate with her name and class of 75 chalked in. When I looked back at the photo later in life, it was a puzzle to me. I recall being elated to be going to college, but there is no trace of that in the girl's face. Even before I arrived at school, I had all of my answers prepared for the freshman intake interview. I wanted to make a good first impression. There were hardly any women at the forestry school in those days, and certainly none who looked like me. The advisor peered at me over his glasses and said, "So why do you want to major in botany?" His pencil was poised over the registrar's form. How could I answer? How could I tell him that I was born a botanist? I told him that I chose botany because I wanted to learn about why asters and goldenrod look so beautiful together. I like to imagine that they were the first flowers I saw over my mother's shoulder as the pink blanket slipped away from my face and their colors flooded my consciousness. Love at first sight. The questions the scientists raised were not, "Who are you?" but "What is it?" No one asked the plants, "What can you tell us?" The primary question was, "How does it work?" The botany I was taught was reductionist, mechanistic, and strictly objective. Plants were reduced to objects. They were not subjects. I was accepted to do graduate work in one of the world's finest botany programs. A master's degree, a PhD, and a faculty position followed. I am grateful for the knowledge that was shared with me and deeply privileged to carry the powerful tools of science as a way of engaging the world. I too began to teach the mechanics of botany, emulating the approach that I had been taught. It reminds me of a story told by my friend Holly Young Bear Tibbetts. A plant scientist, armed with his notebooks and equipment, is exploring the rainforest for new botanical discoveries, and he has hired an indigenous guide to lead him. Knowing the scientist's interests, the young guy takes care to point out the interesting species. The botanist looks at him appraisingly, surprised by his capacity. Well, young man, you certainly know the names of a lot of these plants." The guide nods and replies with downcast eyes, "Yes, I have learned the names of all the bushes, but I have yet to learn their songs." I was teaching the names and ignoring the songs.
Okay, I thank you all for joining with us in that moment. Now, today it's going to be busy, and I'm sure you're feeling plenty of emotions about Streetfest, Quest, and college as a whole. And so I want to take a few minutes just to relax while I lead us in a mindful breathing practice. So, first, I want you to adjust in a comfortable position into your seat. Put both feet on the floor and gently straighten your back if you need to. You are welcome to either close your eyes or soften your gaze. The last 24 hours have been busy. Take stock of where you are. You are at the chapel in Calvin University. It is August 27th, 2022, and this is Saturday. I want you to begin noticing the sensations in your body. Is your jaw clenched? Are your muscles tense? Try to begin to relax them one by one. Feel the strength of the chair and how it holds you up. Feel the connection of your feet to the ground. Begin to gently breathe. Notice the flow of your breath. Don't try to force it to be anything other than what it is. Notice where you feel your breath. Is it in your chest or your abdomen, or is it somewhere else? See if you can notice when one breath ends and the next begins. You may notice your mind to wander, and that's okay. Just try to turn your mind back to your breath. Stay with that breath. When you're ready, begin moving your fingers and toes gently. Open your eyes and deepen your breath. Remember where and when you are. You are in the chapel at Calvin University, Grand Rapids, Michigan. It is Saturday, August 27th, and you're participating in Streetfest.
All right, so we're going to have our director come forward for some logistics.
Good morning, everyone, or afternoon, I think at this point. My name is Andrew Haggerty. I'm the director of the Service Learning Center. My job is just to tell you what's next. This is my 8th Streetfest, and I always get anxious until right about this moment, and then being able to see all of you knowing where it is that you're heading and what it is you're going to do turns it quickly into one of the best days of my school year. So I hope that you're looking forward to what it is you're about to do. I do want to give, well, first, actually, can you join me one more time in thanking Will, Evelyn, the rest of the SLC, and orientation staff who helped put this all together? It's been a wild summer and a season of change, and it's great to be here. One note for the Streetfest leaders, I did kind of a basic head count here, and it's looking like there's a lot fewer people here than we expected there to be, which means that your groups are probably going to be quite a bit smaller than you're expecting and your community partners are expecting. There's obvious implications when a partner plans for 3 hours of work for 20 people and only 12 show up. That changes the game a little bit. So there's no specific instruction except perhaps let your community partners know that we can't force people here. And so if it's a little smaller than expected, we certainly apologize, but hopefully there's some good work to be done. A quick rundown on what the rest of your day is going to look like. Don't move yet, but in just a minute, I'm going to dismiss you all for lunch. You're going to head to Commons and have lunch together, and during lunch, your leaders are going to facilitate some conversation, getting to know each other, and getting ready to go to the site that you're going to. After lunch, you'll walk out to the parking lot near the Burton Street entrance of campus. Most of you will be hopping on school buses that are going to be taking you to your sites, and a couple of groups are going to get to their sites in a different way. You'll head out, you'll be gone for a few hours, and when you come back, you'll be dropped off at the same place you were picked up. And for the students, or for the participants, your day is done. You can head back to your dorms, to dining halls, whatever's next for you. For the leaders, reminder that when you get back to campus, we want to see you on the chapel patio to return your materials and for a brief debrief. One note on lunch, none of you all would know this, but this is a brand new way of doing Streetfest for a lot of different reasons. This is also the first time we've ever had Streetfest lunch in the dining hall. So we're expecting it to be a bit chaotic with couple hundred people showing up to the dining hall all at once. So I just want you to be patient, and I apologize for any chaos. Certainly, especially since this is also the first time you're not in your orientation groups for Streetfest. So amid that chaos, make sure you got your eyes on your leader and you're paying attention to your group so no one gets lost. If you lose track of your group, if you're having trouble finding anything, look for anyone with these tan shirts on, especially anyone you saw up on the stage today, and they can help get you to where you need to go. You can use that time when you're potentially standing in lines to get to know each other, chat about how things are going, how your orientation has been, and things like that. As we dismiss, what I'm going to do is I'm going to dismiss you about 2 to 3 groups at a time. So hopefully getting out of here will be a little bit less chaotic, and the dining hall will be a bit less chaotic. The groups that are going furthest away are going to be dismissed first. So any of you that are doing your Streetfest near here, you're probably going to be the last to get lunch, and I apologize. But my hope is that we can get the people going further away out to lunch and through it so we can all get to the sites around the same time. So With that, leaders, participants, let us know if you have any questions. And for all of you, I hope that you'll have an open mind and work hard and stay hydrated. So, to begin, we're going to start with the two groups that are riding the Rapid, Grand Rapids public bus. So that's Group P and Group L. Y'all can get up and head out, and then once they start making their way toward the door, I'll dismiss the next two groups. All right, and I didn't write down the group letter, but whichever group is walking, you can go next. Yeah. All right, so Group G here. And while they're getting out, Group O and Group T, you can head out next. All right, Group C and Group M. Next are going to be groups E, N, and Q. Next are groups U and S. All right, next we have groups D, X, and A. I feel like I'm calling bingo up here. I said A. All right, the next two are V and W. V is in Volkswagen. All right, we got H and J. All right, the next two are R and B. And then everyone else can go, I think. We're good now. Thanks, y'all. Enjoy your lunch. I hope the lines go fast.